Good morning, everyone. We've just hit 11 a.m, so we're going to start the briefing shortly. We've still got a few more people logging on from all over the world, but my name is Alfred and I'm from Principal IR and I'll be hosting the session today. We're joined today by Novatti CEO Peter Cook, who will provide a general business update and then open the floor to questions from investors and analysts. Through the presentation, if you do have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box on the left-hand side of your screen. If you are logging in from a smart device, your panel will be at the bottom of your screen and we'll read out all the questions at the end of the brief presentation. As many of you will be aware, Novatti has released some fantastic news this morning and over the past month, so I won't take up any more of Peter's time. Peter, I will hand over to you.
Okay, thank you, Alfred, and good morning to all for those that are in the Australian time zone. And look, it is nice to be able to go through these results today and give a bit of an update on the business. And actually, you know, an interesting thing is that when we did this last year, which was the first time, we had about 130 people register and we had a little technical glitch and only the first 100 could log on. This year, we've had well over 250 register. So maybe there's a doubling there and we've had a doubling in share price. So who knows what the correlation is. Anyway, let's just in terms of my presentation for today, what I want to do is just give a quick recap on, you know, what the business does and what we're trying to do, our strategy, and then a bit on the results and a bit on outlook, and take questions over the sort of following 15 minutes or so. So in terms of our positioning in the market, what are we trying to do? We are a company that wants to enable primarily businesses pay and be paid. And businesses in our context could be other fintechs, could be banks, financial services companies, or merchants, or, you know, let's call it non-financial businesses. So we are building infrastructure that allows that. And it goes across to a number of segments of the payments industry. So if we think about our business, we are a multi-services payment service provider. We are providing multiple different types of payment services. We want to be able to put our arms around lots of parts of the payment puzzle so that in the longer term, we can actually provide more than one service to our customers. And a common breakup within the payments world is issuing, acquiring, cross-border payments. Very specialist for us is around subscription billing and business automation services, and then which I'll address separately, us progressing on our bank license. But if we look at those components of issuing and acquiring, in the case of issuing, we are licensed to issue Visa cards in Australia and New Zealand. That is not an insignificant piece of licensing to get. And following that, we've spent a lot of money building a team and technology that supports that capability. So right now we can launch quite complex programs where Novatti Group is the issuer of the cards, and we can have clients that are using those cards for you know, their specialist purposes. And so as an example, we have a client that is involved in the NDIS or you know, the disability industry. They can provide cards to participants in the NDIS and their carers to enable, say, a carer for a client to make a payment, and it's all reconciled and managed within that framework. On the acquiring side, we've done acquiring for a number of years in the area of China payments, and we've built up a very strong, consistent business there. We have been building a team and a business unit to now really drive into the acquiring space, primarily focused on online acquiring, and then what you might call MPOS or mobile point of sale payments. And we're really bringing that to life now. And as part of that, we are seeking full acquiring licenses from Visa and MasterCard. Cross-border payments, We have about 20 fintech clients in Australia that use us as a compliance and technology layer for sending payments out of Australia. And in fact, we've got many fintech clients from overseas that use us for bringing payments into Australia, where we're providing the compliance and technology layer for that. So we're very much, and as in most of our businesses, we're essentially a B2B provider and providing services there. We are launching in the next few weeks our own line of business, where we will be actually providing payments for end merchants and businesses for them to transact their payments overseas. So a B2B payment service, but rather than for other fintech clients, for our own business clients. And then on subscription billing, the Immersion business that we bought 18 months ago, we've been able to drive very strong uptake and growth of that, and have launched in the US and are really now just starting to get some good traction there. The reason that we like those sorts of SaaS type business automation platforms, subscription billing and related sorts of services, is that it enables us to cross-sell, bring on, in particular, merchant acquiring services, and in some case, issuing services to support the subscription billing services that we're providing to that client. And on the bank license, really, it's been obviously a very long story with the regulator and COVID and one thing and another, and it's a very serious mountain to climb. But really, to be able to use all of our efforts in the area of business planning, compliance, technology, and to be able to get through an application for a bank license, and with the long-term aim that it very much dovetails in with a lot of the cross-border payments, issuing, acquiring sorts of services. We can provide those services to the bank, and meanwhile the bank will be able to provide banking services to the payments part of the Novatti business. In a sense of how do we bring all of that to life, what's the core strategy that we think about, and what sort of underpins this? So really, we think in terms of building an ecosystem or infrastructure. I mean, if we're in another industry, infrastructure might be bridges or roads or airports. In our world, infrastructure is about payments networks and capability. So we sort of really start from a layer of licensing. So if we've got licenses to do things, that's nearly the first component. And then on top of that, we add technology where required. And we add, in particular, commercial partnerships. And we've been able to bring through many global commercial partnerships. And, you know, some of the logos there, Visa, Alipay, WeChat Pay, working with Apple Pay and Google Pay, for instance, in our issuing business, and also the acquiring business. So major commercial agreements and partnerships where we can show that as a combination in the end of our licensing, our tech, and those commercial partnerships, we can bring to life serious payments business. And so in that case, you know, for instance, other fintechs would then come to us and say, okay, we want to do a certain service, and we are both licensed and integrated and have the technology to help them provide that service. And then we've just got a few logos there of some of our technology clients. And the point of you know, showing logos of Telstra or Cathay as an example is that, you know, we historically have been able to build big tech that can service, you know, serious mission critical clients. And we're bringing and do bring that tech to our own business. And so when we sort of think about fintech, we are both the tech within fintech and we're the financial services within it. Alfred, yeah. So just looking at some of the financial reporting measures that we've brought out in the quarterly report. First of all, on sales revenue, which is actually the main way we look at what we're doing as in terms of measurable output. We've been able to show this consistent quarterly growth in a year-on-year sense. So Q4 of the year just passed versus Q4 of the year before, we're up 63% in revenue. And then within that, of what we call payment processing revenue, rather than so we're extracting out revenues to do with technology services. We're actually up 87% year on year. So the work that's happening inside the business on our issuing and acquiring and cross-border payments and subscription billing is driving that growth. And in just overall revenue growth, we sort of, this is measuring sales revenue, which is up 50% year on year. And again, each year we've been able to roughly show that sort of growth. And then we also have, in a statutory accounting sense, total revenue, which is a bit over $18 million, 18.4. Last year we were at about 11.9. So we will, in our final accounts, be reporting 18.4. And again, it's about a 50% step up on the year before. And the main difference between sales revenue and total revenue for us is R&D. And last year we did also get some government grants related to JobKeeper. So maybe just again back on this idea of how strategy then sort of delivers a result. So if we go back to strategy, licenses and tech and partnerships. So we needed to get licensed in New Zealand to be able to issue product at all. So we got a regulatory license in New Zealand. We then got licensed by our partner Visa to be able to operate as an issuer in New Zealand. And then that combination allowed us to be able to work with Afterpay to bring to life their requirement for a virtual card that got issued into the wallets of their customers in New Zealand. So, you know, we bring through licenses, add-on tech and commercial agreements, and then we can monetize that and bring through revenues. All right, Alfred. And so just looking forward, and you know, our looking forward statements are not absolute empirical facts. They're primarily intentions and sort of summarize a lot of the work we're trying to do. But if we look at it, we've just raised $40 million, an institutional raise at 55 cents a share, and you know there is the ongoing share purchase plan. But if we look at that raise, it was really about taking a stake in Reckon, which we've done. That was about $22 million, and really capital for continuing growth and working on M&As and also driving licenses and in particular further supporting the final funding for the bank license. So looking forward, we're very much looking at M&A opportunities. We are very much looking forward at bringing through the bank license, acquiring licenses, working with Reckon, hopefully on bringing through revenues there and understanding their capabilities now, our relative capabilities, and just absolute focus on growth in our various business segments. So I think we showed last year we raised $10 million pretty much in the first week of July last year. We said to the market we were going to use that to drive growth. That's what we've done. We've raised again. Really, it's all about growth again, and hopefully our shareholders and people that watch our stock will say, okay, they raise money, they spend it as they say they're going to spend it, and actually focus on bringing through very positive outcomes for shareholders. I think, Alfred, you know, after that sort of very quick summary, I'm happy to take questions as they come through.
No, it's all good. Thanks, Peter. Thank you very much for that detailed presentation. How are we going? Peter, can you hear me there? Yep. Excellent. Peter, thanks for that very detailed update around Novatti's upcoming growth initiatives. We've had quite a few questions come in already. If anyone does have any more that they'd like addressed by Peter, please type them into your Q&A box, and we will try to work through as many of them as quickly as possible because there are quite a lot already. Peter, I'm just going to jump straight into them. Question from Ryan. With so many digital wallets, fintech companies opening up and commercializing all over the world, what gives Novatti confidence it can compete and grab a large enough market share?
Okay, nothing like getting a difficult one first up on the spot. Ryan, I think that, so primarily Novatti is not a B2C player. So we are not ourselves trying to take wallet businesses to market. So, and I say that because, you know, it obviously requires millions of dollars to drive a consumer brand. However, we do, and this is where, you know, we are a B2B company. And so, first of all, I am a big believer in digital wallet businesses. And if you look at it, it is in particular for, you know, there are many communities who find that an online, you know, mobile device driven world, financial world is very valid. They don't need to go into a traditional bank. They're not dealing in cash. So we are going to see a significant number of digital wallet businesses. We are supporting a number of now, you know, for instance, LifePay and Lit in Australia. And also, you know, we are making fees out of Google Pay and Apple Pay for undertaking certain transaction types. So we're a believer that digital wallets are important. I mean, I think, you know, maybe I'll call it the group that should be worried is actually traditional retail banks. But we view it as a positive, and we think that we can leverage very positively from a number of them.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Jason. With the size and scope of the company's strategy to grow rapidly, can we be assured all aspects of the business are being run in line with legalities in different regions and will be compliant with said jurisdictions? How is this being monitored as business grows larger and to ensure you have not overlooked anything?
Right. So, Jason, you know, I mean, we've obviously seen in Australia, you know, AUSTRAC with Westpac and CommBank, and you know, the financial regulators are very strong, and it's let's call it a risk in our risk matrix. That's right at the top of our risks, being compliant. Conversely, it also provides a barrier to entry. And for instance, why do a lot of those smaller fintech companies use us for cross-border payments? Is because we actually have a very significant compliance team and technology. So, you know, we have, I think at the moment it's 11 in our compliance team, and we're actually adding to that. We've got 6 people with law degrees inside our business, and you know, we are very, very focused on it. We've built a lot of our own tech to manage compliance, and we're actually also licensing other technologies to help us in compliance. So, you know, just like, you know, the banks or stockbrokers or other financial services companies, it's a big thing for us. One thing about our business is we essentially, you know, all of our processing really is driven off electronic payments, I'll say. So any of our remittance type transactions, we only allow money coming from a known bank account and whatever. So we're not taking cash into our networks, which takes out nearly the biggest risk straight off.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Trevor. Who is issuing the digital Afterpay card in Australia? Is there an opportunity for you to take over the contract?
So I think there's a couple of parts to that. No, it's not us. And I'm going to say I think it might be Immersion and it's MasterCard, I think. But Afterpay in Australia have essentially run what was originally a merchant-driven model in Australia, whereas in New Zealand they've essentially the way they've done it by using an issuing card inside a wallet, that there is less integration to the merchant. So it's sort of in some ways not an easier, it's sort of, you'd nearly say an easier rollout. It's less work, and I guess aspirationally we would hope to be able to work with Afterpay and similar companies in other markets to roll out similar services.
Peter, we have got a lot of questions. I'm going to lump a couple of these in together.
Yep.
Michael, Gert, Trevor, John, and a few others are asking about Reckon. Peter, can you talk about the Reckon deal and what you have found out about Reckon since, where the opportunities are, and whether you think taking further steps to acquire more Reckon is part of your thinking?
Right. So maybe if I can go back to our thinking about immersion, and really what we're saying is that, you know, there are obvious synergies between business processing software and payments. So, you know, for a very simple example, if you sign up at a gymnasium and, you know, it's $49 a week or whatever, there will be some gymnasium management software that is, in most cases, connected to a payment, you know, a payment gateway and payment software. So if you can influence the gymnasium software company, then you can influence the payments at the back end. So I think that in our case, we look at Reckon and say, you know, they've got 100,000 business customers, and many of whom are using various online, whether it be credit card or bank payment type services, and it would be a great thing to integrate with them and you know, other accounting software type companies. So I think what you're seeing here is a real strategy of working closer with companies that've got an obvious addressable market for payments. You know, in terms of our actual equity positioning and whatever, you know, we are at 19.9%. And, you know, really, you know, if we bought one more share today, we'd be sort of pretty much in line, you know, we'd be sort of intersecting with the takeovers code, which we don't wish to do at the moment. So, you know, so we you know, at the moment we see ourselves as a significant shareholder of Reckon, and, you know, how that plays out over the next 3, 6, 12 months, you know, time will tell.
Just as a brief follow-up, is Novatti looking for a board position at Reckon to enable the integration?
We sort of see that us working with Reckon, I mean, it's got to, on the first case, make sense commercially for both parties, and rather than focusing on, you know, being on the board to achieve that. So, you know, I guess, you know, when it suits us and Reckon, we can talk about that. But at the moment, we've been thinking more about, you know, just on the commercial side.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Steve. Is Novatti a Visa/MasterCard acquirer now, or only acquire a processor until the September licenses are granted? Who do you see as being your major competitors domestically and overseas?
Yeah, so no, at the moment we are applying to both Visa and MasterCard, and, you know, we would hope we're in a timeframe sense able to pull this off by the end of September. But, you know, not that they're regulators, but, you know, you're in the end seeking approval from someone else. So it's not something we can absolutely define, but we hope to do that. In terms of competitors, we'll be one of very few Australian-owned acquirers. I mean, there are, you know, many players in the acquiring space, and at different positions. Some have acquiring licenses, some are what's called merchant aggregators, some are third-party payment processors. I mean, people have got different names, but in terms of our business planning, if we can drive to that and execute, then we can pull through stronger margins and position ourselves to win business that we otherwise couldn't.
Thanks, Peter. Question from Mark. One of the banks has been vocal recently about Apple being anti-competitive in the payment space. Given the flexibility and nimbleness that it provides Novatti, do you have a view on this?
I think what I could say would be echoed by most people in the industry. Apple are an absolute mega brand to deal with unto themselves, and I think it would be suffice to say that they view any company in Australia, starting from CommBank down, as smaller than them, and politely that affects how they do things, or sort of. Yeah, so you absolutely know you're dealing with one of the largest companies in the world that has a very firm view on their brand and margin and market control.
Thanks, Peter. Question here from Andrew. Yesterday, Ripple announced it's expanding its on-demand liquidity platform with the Japan-Philippines corridor. Will this news mean we could see Novatti expanding its use of this tech beyond just the Philippines? And what can you tell us about your experience with it so far?
So we've found Ripple to be really good to work with. Yes, we are working on expanding our corridors, and I think we've said that before. And I think that Ripple, certainly from everything we've seen, they are really here for the long haul. I mean, obviously, everyone thinks about them in terms of XRP, their cryptocurrency, but in terms of them providing an alternative cross-border payments network and a compliant payments network, we are believers. They give us a lot of alternatives. On-demand liquidity, we're not using it for all transactions, but it certainly provides, again, a sort of unique opportunity. And, there are other parts of the Ripple offering that are sort of in their own way unique, and hopefully we can really leverage that over time. But on the core question, I think of other corridors, yes. And hopefully you'll see that pretty shortly from us.
Thanks, Peter. That will have also answered the questions from Kasim and Reese. Just following on from that, Trevor wants to know, are you doing anything in the crypto space, such as a crypto digital wallet?
Our main entree in the crypto space at the moment, we announced that we'd put in for a patent around what we've called a multi-crypto compliant, secure compliant multi-crypto payment gateway, and really we are sort of working through a beta rollout of that, and hope to bring on our first exchange and merchants over the next few months. So from our point of view, it's really us as a payments company, in that case with a very unique offering, rather than us taking a position on cryptos. We don't see ourselves as a crypto company. We're a payments company. But in the longer term, hopefully with an ability to process digital assets and enable people to use those assets to make payments or purchases or whatever.
Thanks, Peter. Got a few people querying the acquiring licenses, including Sia, Andrew, and a couple of others. Can you just clarify the difference between your Visa issuer license and a potential acquiring license from Visa and MasterCard?
Yeah, so issuing really gives us the right, and with approval on each product, but to issue a physical or virtual Visa card. And then that goes to prepaid debit or credit. Now at the moment we're only doing prepaid cards, and so but we have the right to issue them. So I don't know, for instance, a charity could come to us and say, look, we'd like to do 20,000 cards to send out to our members. We want to put our logo on the front. We want our members to be able to put in money, and we want to be able to send them out into their wallets or physically mail them out or whatever. We can build a program and get it approved by Visa, and then the back of the card would say issued by Novatti Group Limited, and the front of the card would say the name of the charity, and the consumer would have a card that says the charity name, and if they really looked on the back, it'd say issued by Novatti Group Limited rather than ANZ Bank or someone else. The acquiring, so that's issuing. Acquiring is really where you can take a payment. So when you go to a coffee shop and you tap a card at the coffee shop, that is an acquiring transaction. The terminal is acquiring a transaction, and in that case, it's an in-store transaction. Our focus is very much e-commerce. Yeah.
Thanks, Peter. We are getting very tight on time. I'm just going to ask you two more questions, and I'm going to lump a couple together. We've got quite a few people asking about the banking license, when you expect that one to be granted, and then one investor has asked where you anticipate Novatti taking that in the long term, and what the end game might look like for you.
Okay, so look, the bank license has been a massive amount of work. We've got a very serious team on it, and in fact, we're sort of building the team back up again post the we had to sort of essentially close a lot of the work down during the COVID time. We are sort of, I'll say, assembling and putting in our last bits of paperwork to the regulator. They have their final process, and we are aiming that is issued in the October-November timeframe. However, it's not, in the end, it's a regulator and it's not totally within our control. In terms of, the real value, the real value is Australian bank licenses globally are held in high esteem. And, we want to have a new type of bank license, not with bank branches, completely digital, very high, very high use of technology, whether it be, so the core banking systems through to AI, relatively a low number of staff, and then focusing on, servicing migrants, cross-border payments, and in the longer term, banking sort of companies such as Novatti with new types of, with transaction accounts or lending accounts or whatever. So, really, what do we want to do? We want to have a small, nimble, profitable bank, not so much competing with the big four in Australia, but really focusing on new markets. We just see that it's got huge potential.
Thanks, Peter. Just to follow up, is Novatti fully funded financially once the license is awarded, and will there be another capital raise to support the banking business?
So there is no intention of Novatti to do another capital raise for anything to do with the bank license. No.
Thanks, Peter. All right, I'm very conscious that we're about to hit our hard cap time, so I'm just going to ask one question from Paul about the SPP. Thank you for organising the current SPP. How do you think it will go in participation point of view? I often support small cap companies in SPP. Can you comment?
Right. So it's an interesting thing. I mean, obviously our share price is under the 55 cents for the share purchase plan at the moment. I think the interesting thing is that, funds that subscribe for the share purchase plan essentially go to the company for growth. It's not like you're buying shares from someone else. So, what is subscribed, we take, and we've said we'll use it for growth. And, hopefully people accept that we are people who wisely spend our money and in fact, your money. So we're pretty precious about that. Look, we did the placement for $40 million, and I guess that the board, in particular the chairman Peter Pavlovich and myself, said, well, we read a lot of companies, shareholders say, the institutions have got in, we can't get in or whatever. So we've said, okay, we'll slightly reduce the placement and we'll allocate out $5 million in the SPP. So, we've actually done it to try and bring shareholders along, and we have a lot of communication with a lot of our shareholders, and we think that we've got a lot of shareholders that believe in what we're doing. It is a bit unfortunate the share price is under. I mean, I'm not a stockbroker, and in the end, someone might say, well, I can buy on market at whatever it is, at 51 or 2 or 3 cents, or I can, take the share purchase plan at 55, or I can do nothing. But, from our point of view, we wanted to reach out, and what I can say is that, the $5 million will be used for growth.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Peter. We have now passed our time limit here, and I know you've got a couple of meetings for the rest of the morning and afternoon, so I will be bringing the session to a close shortly. If anyone does have any more questions, feel free to email them in and we'll get a response from Peter. This session was also recorded, so we'll try and make that available to everyone that has registered within the next 24 hours. Peter, on behalf of the Novatti shareholders and those in attendance, I'd like to thank you for your time today, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thank you all.